Take it, Ed.
Okay, so welcome you guys. Glad you could join us for our lecture that we're giving you guys today. We're the Phantom Detectives. We're a paranormal investigation team. And, we're going to do this lecture for you guys and tell you a little bit about what we do and how we do it, places we've investigated. And then later on at the end, we're going to have a chance for you guys, which is going to be in a different room, where you guys will be able to see some of the equipment we use, some of the state-of-the-art stuff. And also, if you guys want to do some hands-on, we're going to give you guys an opportunity to do that, to try out some of our equipment and see how everything works. And then we'll give you a little demonstration at the same time, and then we'll wrap up for the evening. So we're going to start out with some introductions, begin with Joshua Chairs.
Sure. So, hi, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So today, actually, we're here to do a lecture on Phantom Detectives, LLC. And you can see, of course, there's our Phantom Detectives. We also own Dark Matter News, which we'll explain what that is later. Extraterrestrial Research Center.
We'll tell them, explain to them how you got started, how you found the Phantom Detectives.
Sure, that's what I want to go into right now.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, we're having an agenda. So the agenda is our team history, we're going to be talking about tonight. We're also going to be talking about our investigation protocol, what we do, how we conduct investigations, our best thermal images that we've captured from our history. And we're also going to be talking about EVPs. You guys can actually hear some of our electronic voice phenomena, which is our voices imprinted on a digital recorder that you guys can actually hear on the slides. And we're also going to be talking about video of paranormal activity, one of our best captures from a past investigation, actual video of paranormal activity. And we're going to talk about what is Dark Matter News, important websites, and then, of course, if you guys have any questions at the end, we'll be happy to answer them. All right, so first thing is I'm going to introduce the history of the team. So I founded Phantom Detectives, LLC on August 20th, 2020 as a way to revolutionize paranormal investigating in the state of Pennsylvania. So our first official investigation was December 9th, 2020 at the Sanderson Museum in Chaddsford, Pennsylvania. It's known to be a very haunted location. And then January of 2021, I reached out, a researcher, a guy from Florida who's going to be helping us on haunted locations. Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, joined us. And then I invited Rick Warner in March of 2021 to join us as our first ever tech manager. And eventually he would become lead investigator, which he currently serves right now. And of course, in May of 2021, we purchased Dark Matter News from Leo Ashcraft, which was a part of the legendary late night radio show host Art Bell, who had over 20 million listeners in the 90s on Coast to Coast AM. For his final return, we purchased his affiliate director's news service. And then, of course, Melissa joined in June of 2021 at the Selma Mansion investigation, case 4.
Okay, so Melissa, do you want to go ahead and just go and tell everybody, introduce yourself and how you got started to become, what drew you to become a paranormal investigator?
Okay, so I'm Melissa Ferrazano, and I'm the team's psychic medium. I'm the case manager. As the team's psychic medium, I'll begin how I got started. In my early years, I've always had abilities, even as a very young child. And I did not welcome those abilities. They frightened me, which goes without saying, seeing spirits in the middle of the night. And I actually, at a very young age, understood the concept of energy, where I was very empathic. I was so empathic that I was afraid that if I would hold somebody's hand, that I would pick up their emotions. I was a very sensitive child in many ways. So as I grew older, I tried to turn these abilities off, which I found you can never fully turn them off. I just tried to be quote unquote normal as best as I could. However, in my adult life, I continued to have experiences, and it was frightening, but what I chose to do was embrace these experiences and learn about them, learn the mechanics of mediumship, if you will, and psychic abilities. Now, through the years, I've always, maybe this sort of thing goes hand in hand with being fascinated with the paranormal. I would watch various shows, the well-known ones, Ghost Hunters, Paranormal State, all the various ones out there. I still do, I love them. And what I would find myself doing is, sometimes these shows would have psychic mediums come on. There's ones that are well-known, like Chip Coffey, Cindy Kaza, other ones, and I would see if I could tune into what they were picking up on when I would watch these shows. And sometimes I would say it right before they would. I would say, well, I'm picking up on a gentleman, and the psychic on the show would say, well, there's a man here. So I knew that I was on to something, and well, the universe had plans for me, because Joshua Chairs found me on Facebook, saw that I was a student of Cindy Kaza's, who's on the various paranormal shows, and saw that I lived close by, and he says, hey, would you like to join our team as a psychic medium and test out your abilities? And I said, absolutely, I would love to do this sort of thing. So as Joshua said, when did what was it, 2021, I joined the team. It was like, I remember
June 2021.
Yep. Went on our very first investigation at the Summer Mansion in Norristown, and it was quite an experience, and I was actually picking up on things prior to the investigation, prior to arrival. I remember saying, hey Joshua, there's a gentleman, he looks like Abraham Lincoln, but maybe it has to do with the time, maybe it has to do with, when the Selma Mansion was, in its heyday in the 1800s. And he said, no, you're right. Abraham Lincoln is connected. Mary Todd Lincoln's, what was it, her uncle? Great-grandfather, I'm sorry, owned that mansion. Yep. So my jaw dropped to the ground, and I said, okay, I have a feeling I'm going to do well doing this sort of thing. So ever since then, I'm at these locations without any prior knowledge, seeing if what I'm tuning into is accurate with the history. I always go into these investigations blindly, because it would be biased if I knew any backstory.
Yeah.
And Joshua is our historian, so I go in there, see if what I'm tuning into is accurate with the facts.
Yes.
And that's my role on the team right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so now,
No, you're going to Rick. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, yeah, so my name is Rick Warner. I am the lead investigator for Phantom Detectives. I'm also the tech manager and the director of client relations. And so how I got my start is, okay, I've always been interested in anything like paranormal. And especially in the beginning, extraterrestrial type stuff, ufology, based on things that happened to me, when I was a kid, and shows that I watched. I've always been interested in any shows that were about anything extraterrestrial. And from after that, I joined up with MUFON, which stands for Mutual UFO Network. And then I became studied to be a certified field investigator. I moved up to a level 3 investigator, and I went through MUFON University and studied earned about 8 different certifications from space travel and astronomy 1 and 2, different things like that, and a lot of certification stuff for learning how to conduct proper investigations. So once that happened, at some point I had left the team because the guy that was the director for the Delaware chapter, even though he had been with them a long time, there were some problems where he wasn't happy with some of the things that were going on with the organization. So, and we, as the team members and stuff that were under him, we were standing behind him, and we weren't happy with some things, so we kind of all left at that point. And I was going to start originally all of us were going to start an organization together. Well, they kind of panned out and said they didn't want to do it, and they started to, and they thought, well, I put a lot of work into this, I'm going to do this by myself, because once I set my mind on something, on a goal, I like to follow through with things. So now I'm the executive director for ERC, which stands for Extraterrestrial Research Center. And I have a guy that works under me. He's the director of research. So, and later down the road, so on LinkedIn, Joshua had found me and invited me to come down to an investigation. My first investigation was the Betsy Ross House in Philadelphia. And as soon as I did that, I thought, wow, I really like this. I feel like I just like fit right in. I didn't have much with me at the time because I, didn't really have much equipment because I just getting started as a paranormal investigator, and I tried it out. I thought I'm going to see how I like it, and if I like it, maybe I'll consider staying with the team. So I ended up really liking it, and then from there, I just grew into that and decided this is something I really like to do. So I just continued, with my team. We all get along really well. We're all like family. And we all bring in our unique personalities and skills as paranormal investigators. One of my specialties is interviewing clients. Not just doing investigations itself, but also, conducting interviews and asking the right questions to find out if a case is going to be credible enough for us to move forward with, or we feel that this is going to be a great case to investigate. So now that I talked about that, so Joshua's going to show you a slide presentation.
Yes. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about myself. I am the founder of Phantom Detectives, LLC. I founded us in August of 2020. As like I said before, to revolutionize paranormal investigating in this state of Pennsylvania. So I actually got my start by watching Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, and of course In Search of by Leonard Nimoy. Those shows kind of really helped, for me to get my start in the paranormal. And of course in the 1990s, I would listen to Coast AM with Art Bell, which was really a paranormal radio show, late night talk. And of course reading Dr. Hans Holzer, who is America's first ghost hunter. He was the guy that kind of helped pioneer all of this for us. And of course, reading about ufology over the years. And then in 2002, I investigated the General Wayne Inn, which is in Marion Station, Pennsylvania, and would be very haunted, called the Inn of the 17 Ghosts. And there I went down in the basement and captured took three consecutive digital camera photos and got some really weird green and yellow streaks of light. And after that, I became hooked into investigating. And of course, with all the shows started coming out, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal State, all these shows, and then I decided, hey, why don't I just go ahead and start something fun? So in 2014, I founded the Summerwind Restoration Society out of Wisconsin with a Wisconsin paranormal investigator named Craig Naring. We wanted to restore, rebuild, and relaunch a haunted bed and breakfast up in Wisconsin. And then, of course, my mentors were Art Bell's final two producers, Heather Wade and John Ilias, who produced his final return ever on Midnight in the Desert in 2015. And now I founded Phantom Detectives as a way to continue to improve the process. All right. So next we're going to talk about this, and now we're going to go ahead and talk about before the investigation. So, as you guys know, we have a very specific, streamlined process on how to conduct an investigation. So now, we used to have it where basically people would email me and I would share it with the team, but now we have made the process even better. Now people will go to the website, phantomdetectives.org. We have a brand new request help form. It gives all the information on, size of the location, what kind of things, if there's any kind of lights, voices, footsteps. Fill out all the information on the request help form. The form will then go to Melissa's email inbox with all the information. So this is going to help us a lot easier. It'll help us weed out all those cases who say, I don't have a ghost in my attic. And it'll help us, that. And then what Melissa will do, we always group text. We always communicate over group text on our phones. And so she'll decide, hey, I found this case in this location. This client's reporting this paranormal activity. And then we'll decide as a group, we'll decide to pursue an audio interview with Mr. Rick Warner with his audio interviewing skills to do that. So that's a very specific process on how to make the email, the simplification better by having a form, fill out the form, go to Melissa's email, and then boom, goes to our group text, and then we set up the audio interview. Now we're going to talk about the investigation process. So Melissa, of course, I've given her more responsibility. She's now the case manager. She handles the bookings of the investigations, including the date, time, and the location. And then what we'll do is we'll do a walkthrough with the client. Like every investigation we do, we always sit down and figure out where are the hot spots of areas of paranormal activity in the home or the business. And then after that, what we do is we break down all the equipment because we've got so many apparatuses, and then we leave the residence and start reviewing evidence. So do that. Now the evidence review process is very, very time consuming, as you can see here. Let me try to get this slide up here. See if it works. Here we go. Okay, so the evidence review process takes about 3 to 4 weeks. We've got a lot of DVR cameras, voice recorders, EMF meters, various ghost boxes, SLS cameras, static night vision cameras. So we got to review all these apparatuses, and it takes 3 to 4 weeks. And instead of like going through the whole investigation, we'll just put like a brief paragraph about what we captured during that investigation on our website, phantomdetectives.org. And now what we do is now we have a new report where I just go to the bottom of the website, it's on the footer, I just click the report button, and it has all this information. We just fill it out with all these different things about EVPs captured, environmental data, psychic experiences, history of the location, stuff like that. So we just fill out the form, email it to the client, and then of course, client confidentiality. As an organization, we strive to protect everybody's confidentiality on investigations, making sure that none of that is, all that always comes protected. And then we'll do that, so we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so some of the devices that we use and you'll see tonight are EMF meters, which are like K2 meters, digital recorders, which is like right here. We use Ghost Box, which is like the S box over there, which scans AM and FM stations. We also use dowsing rods. You'll see those tonight.
SLS up there, yeah.
SLS camera, which is like just a standard Xbox Connect technology, which draws a stick figure and marks it as an anomaly on the screen. We also have like just different paralanterns, REM pods, and of course we have thermal imaging camera. You'll see that tonight with Rick. So these are just some of the various apparatuses: EMF meters, Ghost Boxes, SLS, and then just various lights and different Geiger counters and stuff like that. Okay, and now we'll go into okay, here's a really cool thermal image I want to show you guys here. It's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see a little bit on the screen here. If you need to come up to the laptop, that's no problem to see. But you can see like 3 silhouettes of apparitions here from tank tops. And this was captured at Booby's Brewery, which is a well-known speakeasy in the western part of Lancaster County. It dates back to 1850. And kind of hard to see.
Are you guys able to see that okay? It's probably easier for you to see it than from where we're at. You guys can see the shapes.
But if you guys need to come up and see the laptop, we have
you
no
can
problem.
see better on laptop. Yeah, it's because that's actually, those little things are taken from a laptop screen.
Oh, how do we get it back on?
That was weird.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it. So there's that one. Here's another one we captured, same investigation. It's kind of hard to see, but right here there's like an apparition right here standing, but unfortunately with the pixels, the way the image came out, it's kind of hard to see with the thermal camera, but we'll be happy to email this to you guys if you'd like to see it later on. So there's that. And so here's a really cool one that Rick had. Would you describe this for us, Mr. Warner? The one that you captured in his stomach?
So what this is here is, so I had just purchased a brand new thermal camera, okay? And the first time I used it, we were actually doing an investigation at a residence, and the lady had, really good, she picked up some excellent activity on her video cameras and things like that. So we all talked about it, thought it would be a good place to investigate. And when I was there, so I told Joshua, go ahead and take a thermal picture of me, just to kind of test it out, and see how it looks. So I'm standing like this with my hands here, right? Now, if you look at this image, you can see there's a hand there. There's 4 fingers, there's a thumb. And when you look over here, you can see, it's harder, like I said, a little harder to see here, but there's the thumb and the hand wrapping around. And part of it, this is so blown up that that's why it's a little harder to see. But if you look at a laptop there, you can see there's a body here, there's the arms, hands. Now, a couple people that saw this thought maybe this was heat, residual heat for me putting my arms here. I know it wasn't, because at no time did I do this, because I had too many things I was carrying at the time. So it wasn't that. And also, if you look at the placement of the thumb is a little far spaced. It's a little hard to see it on this kind of image, but so I knew right away. And also, how do you explain this? You know, so when you look here in the image, you can see here it looks like, which will be right in this area. Probably can't see it real good, but on the laptop here you can see it looks like the image of a face, and then you have the body kind of in here, and then there's arms. So, you know, that's like pretty crazy. So, and my first thing was it kind of freaked me out because I kept thinking like, gosh, I hope this thing's not inside me, right? That was the first thing that came to my head. I'm thinking, man, I'm like, I hope I'm not possessed with this thing, like it's gotten inside me. So, freaked me out a little bit. And then when I came home, I took a thermal picture of myself to see if I could duplicate it, and I couldn't. So I kind of felt relieved after that. But I saved the image. I got a couple of them, and everybody that's seen it agrees that, you know, it's definitely a great capture of something paranormal there.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for describing it, Mr. Wall.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to go into this one here. Kind of hard to see it, but right here you can see like an apparition in the thermal. This was captured last year at a client named D.H. in Kirkwood, Pennsylvania. They actually reported seeing shadows and all kinds of, we actually got some really crazy EVP. This was a very extreme case we had to expedite after our lightship overfalls investigation because this client reported seeing dark shadows, and we actually had some, we ran the SLS camera that night. We started picking up these black oil spills on this wall, which were absolutely terrifying. It looked like something very demonic in nature from the case. You can see an apparition standing right over there. And right in that area, we also got some really scary EVP that said, I want you to go. And within the basement areas, where we, right in the area of that EVP is where that voice recorder is set, right in that area where that shadow, we can see that shadow person is.
Excuse me, Joshua, is it possible, because see, this is part of the problem too, is that this screen is awfully big for the resolution of this.
Yes.
So is it possible to, instead of having it fill the whole screen, can you do like where it doesn't fill in the screen, like it's smaller, maybe zoom it out?
I could try.
I think if you can zoom it out so it's smaller, it might be easier to see.
That'd be a little better? Yeah.
It does look like it's a little bit clearer, I think.
Yeah.
You guys think it's more clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. All right,
Maybe
cool.
that helps, yeah.
Yes, let's do that. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into EVPs.
I love that effect, by the way.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to go into 4 really fascinating. Okay, here's the first one. Try to see if I can get it to play. Looks like we're having some technical
It
difficulties.
looks like it's loading.
Yeah. All right.
You may have to let it load all the way. Oh, wait, there we go.
I think I can fix that.
Oh, you can, Tom?
Yep,
Thank you.
I think so.
It was working earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, there we go.
Is that, if it was a sound issue, I wasn't sure.
Here we go.
Let's try sitting in across one rod.
Hear that growl?
If you don't want us to be in this
I
room,
have to play it again.
Sure.
Yeah, you can, yeah, there you go.
let's try sitting in across one rod.
Hear
If
that?
you don't want
Yeah.
us to be in this room,
That was, actually, you can hear it better now than the first time.
Yeah,
Like,
that was the Betsy Ross house in Philadelphia, PA, where Rick was downstairs with our former member at that time.
that was the basement, right? Yeah.
Yep, the basement area, yep. And this one is from the White Chimneys investigation in December 2021. This is just Rick running the ghost box. Right here.
It's like, that wasn't any of us talking. I think we determined that, right? Yeah. Do you remember what that was supposed to be?
That was supposed to be, I think it was supposed to be a slave. That was actually, there was actually a known slave, it was actually part of the Underground Railroad, of course, out in Lancaster County, from what I hear. So they actually were very pro-abolitionist, in the, in that part of the in the north, basically. So it was known to actually house, I think, like 5 or 10 slaves. The house was back in the 1700s during its heyday.
It definitely sounds like a woman's voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's what we got last year from the lightship Overfalls in Lewis.
Yeah, that one actually made their local paper.
You hear that pretty clear.
Did it sound like hello? Is that hello?
Hello?
Yep, hello, help me.
Hello, help.
Yeah.
Here's one our newest EVPs that we caught just from the
We're getting a little static for some reason, but.
Yeah, get on with that. You can hear that. I'll play that again for you guys. Yeah, get on with that. These are,
And that
Yeah.
was that at the Bucksville
Yep.
in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
yep. So now here's another crazy video. This is from the Mill of Van Selma.
Oh, it's full of curtains.
Yeah, thank you. This dates back to January 2021. This is before Melissa and Rick joined, and it's just me and my team member. Now here's what's wild. Mind you, this door here, it's an old-fashioned timing latch. It has to be physically lifted up like this. It's a deadbolt, so it can't move, and we're the only ones on the property. This old mill dates back to 1747, the oldest continuing operating mill in the United States. So watch this, and you're going to see this door literally fly open. Watch this. Mind you,
Do you see the orb
See the
too?
orb,
The
yeah.
orb that went
Yeah.
across?
play that for you again. And mind you, this
Yep,
is a deadbolt.
push. And it looks like, actually, was that like 3? It looked like,
Like
hit
something.
that again to play?
Sure.
Because look, there's one that goes like a diagonal here,
Yeah.
and then it
Oh,
goes
yeah.
back this way, and then it goes back this way again.
Yep. So this was just, we just put one of those security cameras right on that door to see what would happen, and that's what
It just
happened.
opened up by itself.
Yep.
Yep. So
And-
was anybody down there at the
Nope.
time? Okay, so
Yeah.
there was just a camera, so no one was around.
No one
But there was no like air draft or anything, because I
Nope.
remember I asked you about that.
Yep.
Thinking like somebody, if you had like a draft, or wind, something pushing it,
It
or
was wild,
somebody
it
behind there.
wasn't
and it
windy that night, no one was on the property that night, it was just me and my
There
tour
was no
teamers,
one there.
and we were 3 floors up, this is what the camera caught. And okay, we'll do that, and now we'll go
Very
into,
cool.
get that done. Now we're gonna talk about dark matter news. This is a little brief synopsis of the history of our dark matter news. We kind of changed the logo when we purchased it, we bought it, and the idea was that's going to create Art Bell's house out in Pahrump, Nevada. Of course, he had 20 million listeners on Coast to Coast AM. He was the creator of Coast to Coast, and when he came back for the final time in April 2015, he employed Leo Ashcraft to become his affiliate director. So what we did in May of 2021, we purchased the rights to the name, the logos, the trademarks of Leo Ashcraft's brand, and we relaunched it. So instead of just like completely just letting it go by the wayside, we decided, why don't we keep it alive as a tribute to Art Bell and all his memory, because he passed away in 2018. So we bought it, we relaunched it, and that was the Dark Matter News purchase in May of 2021. And now I'm going to give you our websites. If you guys, it's also on our business cards, but just in case you would like to reach us for investigations or public investigations for paranormal news, all things paranormal, go to darkmatternews.com. I usually write like a couple articles every week on darkmatternews.com. And of course, our team website to reach us, and I'm usually on there a couple times a week. We also have a Discord server. For all of you that love paranormal and want to chat with us directly live, we have a server where people can talk in a virtual community this long. So if you'd like to reach us and chat with us, we're on that server. And you can also, and all of our other websites can be found right on the front of our homepage where it says important websites. Melissa can be reached, Rick can be reached on his website, all from the main homepage. So now we're going to go into questions. So now we'll take time to answer questions.
So before we do that, there's a couple more things that
Sure.
we have to cover here
Sure.
before we get to the question things. I want to talk about the type of places that we have investigated. So in our investigations, there's a lot of different places you can investigate. You can investigate residences. You can investigate, things like hotels, businesses, restaurants, things like that. So what we do is we try to do a combination of both. So we investigate some larger venues like mansions and just big properties like that. We also try to do some outside investigation, like we did at Crybaby Bridge. We picked up some pretty good activity investigating outdoors, and then also in residences. We got some pretty good investigation with residents as well. So that's the type of places that we go to. We're usually anywhere. Most of our investigations have been in Pennsylvania, around Delaware. We're gonna start moving, hopefully branching out into like parts of New Jersey and things like that. Because there's a lot of places out there to investigate that we haven't really got too much of the New Jersey market. But we're looking at doing some of that in the future, and also doing something like this battleship that we've been talking about doing, the military battleship. And recently, as Joshua had mentioned, we did the lightship over falls, which is very cool, because it's actually, think of like a regular lightship on land, but they put it on the ship, and there's very few of these things left. And it's really, really very cool, because we got some video footage on the outside of the ship, as well on the inside. And I should mention that we record all our investigations into season episodes. So I do all the recording and the directing for all our episodes. So that way, we can share those with other people. And it's really pretty cool, because we have quite a few videos that we put together, from doing this. And the next thing that I want to talk about that Melissa can share with you is how using a psychic medium could benefit a paranormal investigation. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so are we talking about like me going in there? And
Yeah, like how does being a psychic medium, what does it bring to the table for a paranormal investigation?
Well, what's interesting is, so going into places like museums, mansions, lightships, I don't know the backstory. When a client reaches out and they give me information, I already know a little bit, so there's a bit of a difference. I may go into a residence, knowing certain things, but not absolutely everything, because Rick will take that next step, interview the client, they'll give him more details. But when I go into investigations, a lot of times the equipment, my best piece of equipment is a notebook and pen, seeing who I'm tuning into, what is the vibe that they're giving me. Is the spirit welcoming? Is the spirit saying, "Hey, you're in my place. I don't want you here." And so a lot of times, what we do as a team, whatever I'm tuning into, it's like an experiment. A lot of times, our equipment will verify what I'm picking up on. There was one residence in particular. This gentleman lived in an apartment. And he was having a lot of really nasty activity, especially in his bedroom. He wouldn't even sleep in there. He slept in the living room. When I went into that residence, I picked up on the spirit of an angry woman. She was not happy that we were coming in there. I'm not so quick to rule out things as being evil, demonic. We all come in to any place treating the spirits with respect. We're coming into your home. Thank you for having us, But this residence, this woman, she's not happy we were there. And later on, we captured, our equipment picked up her cursing us out. I mean, in a really nasty way.
That was on the spirit box session we did, which was
Yeah.
on a device that it uses an AM/FM sweep, and using like white noise, and spirits will try to latch onto that. We're actually able to capture a lady that was saying some foul language that was picked up on that. We know it wasn't a radio interview, because they don't allow that kind of
And
language.
mind you,
Right.
we also do something called Phantom Time,
Yeah.
where we ask your EVPs, and during EVP session, we actually got the words right here, like a whisper. So it was someone like there that is completely terrifying, and with that EVP's on our EVP section of phantomdetectives.org, so that when you add the EVP and add all the stuff, that place was bouncing off the walls with activity.
So another thing too is like when Melissa, we do, which we call the Chairs Warner method spirit box session, which is an advanced method from what's called the Estes method for doing spirit box session, that we worked on to perfect and make better than any other type of method out there. So we think we really have the best. And what's really nice is that So we bring in Melissa as our psychic medium. And with that being said, she's seated in a chair. She has headphones on. And we have the AM/FM spirit box playing, scanning through AM/FM channels at different speeds. And we turn it up loud enough so all she's hearing is sound coming from that AM/FM, to scanning the airwaves. And we make sure it's loud enough. She cannot hear the questions we're asking. We also blindfold her, so she cannot see us. She cannot see us, she cannot hear us. And what we ask her to do is, as a psychic medium, let us know if you're picking up any spirits around you, what you're feeling, but at the same time, listen for anything that the spirits might channel over to you, any words or sentences and things like that. And amazingly enough, we've gotten some excellent responses from Melissa. Sometimes there'll be an occasional question or two where, she doesn't say anything, and that's okay, because it's not always going to be 100% perfect. However, from all the spirit box sessions I ever heard, her success rate as far as communicating with the spirits has been very high, and about tuning in and picking up things that they're saying and stuff like that. So what we do is we have internal recording we do to the device, the S-Ghost box. We also have our digital recorders on that record it. So it also becomes like an EVP session at the same time. And what's nice about it is we can go back and listen to the questions that Joshua and I take turns asking.
Yes.
And the answers that Melissa's given. And some of them has just been mind-blowing. Like we'll say something and it'll be, or like she'll talk and she'll say, like, why are you here? And then we'll say something like, because we want to communicate with you something. And then there'll be a part where she'll say something, okay, well, go away, or I want you to stay. Like, because we said, you feel like you've had enough, you don't want to do this anymore. And, and then she'll say something like, for us to stay, not to leave, and things like that. So some of the stuff that she's picked up as a psychic medium has been absolutely amazing.
Yes, and sometimes the best way I can describe it is when I really am in tune with what's going on, sensory deprivation. I mean, I feel like I'm literally tapped out into another world, and I don't remember a lot of my responses. I certainly don't hear the questions, but I just feel like part of me is like left my body, like I'm in a trance-like state. So when they tap me and they're like, okay, hey, listen, we're done, I take the blindfold off, the headphones on, I'm like, whoa, what just happened? So it's mind-blowing for me as well. It's a very interesting experiment, if you will. So yeah, like Rick said, we all bring something unique to the table.
So, and then the one last thing too I want to talk about, and then we're going to take a short session for anybody that has any questions, and then we'll head on down to another room and then give you guys a chance to, be part of, get a chance to get some hands-on experience with our equipment. So conducting a client interview. So what I do is I conduct the client interviews. And the reason for that, the reason why you do client interviews, and I got a lot of this training through MUFON as a certified field UFO investigator. The reason why you're doing this is you're trying to, you want to give the client a chance to share with you their experience, share their stories, talk about any witnesses that back up anything they say. Maybe they have pets, dogs that might have act strange, or cats, things like that. People that have stayed over the house. And what we do is, like, I have a list of questions I go through and ask to find out, like, have you had any kind of electrical disturbances, lights flashing on and off, things like that, TV flashing on and off. Now, sometimes, yeah, it's true. You could have, just because you have a light flashing on and off, that could be an electrical issue. Doesn't necessarily mean it's paranormal thing. So we try to look at the overall picture. Are you picking up anything like any doors, windows, tapping on windows, doors opening, closing, windows maybe opening, closing? Do you hear like any footsteps? Have you seen apparitions? Are you hearing any weird sounds, things like that? We also want to find out, like, what have other people picked up in your home or your venue, your place of business, if it's a restaurant or hotel or whatever it is. So, and then what we try to do is, I'll ask them questions about, let's say if it's a house that somebody lives in, okay, do you own or rent? Okay, well, you own the house. Are you the original owner? Or, no, there's been other people live here before, then I try to find out, do you know anything about the previous owners or anything about the history of the house? Sometimes people will have a lot of past history they can tell you, especially if it's like a mansion or something that has a lot of history behind it. Other times they'll tell you, for an example, let's say people that stayed in a bed and breakfast in, things, events, activity that's been reported by people that have stayed overnight, let's say. A guest might be walking downstairs and say, I just saw like an image of a black shadow figure walk up the stairs, or I heard some weird tapping noises in my room, things like that. So all this information, we take this information and what I do is I get permission, I do a digital recording of the interview, and then I share it with Joshua. And all these facts help us gather history and information about what we're going into in an investigation. And then from there, we decide we're going to do it. We have Melissa, our case manager, who sets up a day and time for us to go through. And it's doing a client interview is a good way to also establish credibility. Because sometimes, people are just not being credible, or, working with MUFON, conducting interviews too. Somebody might have said, well, I saw something flying in the night. It looked like an extraterrestrial craft. And, well, what were you doing at the time? What were you doing before this happened? Well, I was at a party with my friend, and we were like all drinking and everything. And we all smoked a couple joints, So then what happens, you're thinking, okay, well, was this person in the right mind when they made these claims? Did anybody else see anything? Well, we were all a little bit drunk, so I'm not really sure what they saw. Stuff like that. So it's really important to try to gain facts about the case, knowing beforehand what you're going into. So I guess we could start with the question and answers. Does anybody have any questions on anything that you want to ask us?
What's up, buddy?
You tried to rebuild Summerwind?
Yes, so actually in May of 2014, I bought the original blueprints to Summerwind Mansion, which is in Land O'Lakes, Wisconsin. Of course, it's season 1, episode 2 of A Haunting on television. And of course, I reached out to summerwindmansion.com, which was still at that time. And basically what happened, so I came across Ray Von Bober, who is the brother of Ginger Hinshaw, who actually lived there in the 1970s. And of course, he's a former owner of Summerwind. So the idea, of course, was Craig Nearing, who runs the Fox Valley Ghost Hunters up there. He does paranormal tours up there and also owns a school. He reached out to me. He knew the owners of the property, Harold and Babs Tracy, who live up in La Crosse, Wisconsin. So the idea is that Tracy's had a lot of trespassing over the years, people vandalizing and trying to legend trip and trying to find a deed of an English explorer who actually was supposedly had a land grant for the northern third of Wisconsin up there. And unfortunately, there was no land grant ever found. So the idea is that the place burned down in 1988, as you know from the episode. So the idea is if we can rebuild Summerwind as a haunted bed and breakfast, people trespassing can now come on the property legally, and then it could open up as like a hotel or a historical museum. That way it could open up paranormal tours. Think of like the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum in the Midwest. And the idea, of course, is it was also featured in the 1980 Life magazine with Walter Cronkite. So there's definitely interest in rebuilding this old place. You just have to find investors and people that have money. And hopefully someday Summerwind does get rebuilt. Because I think the property would have great potential as a major haunted location in the Midwest.
Is that the one where the little girl died in the fire?
That's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
sorry, but Summerwind was built in like the very early 20th century.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
And it had no previous record of being haunted, but when the owner took over, it began a lot of poltergeist activity for decades on end.
Yeah, and the Henshaw family, of course, that was when everything escalated, and I'll be more than happy sometime to meet with you and show you the original blueprints of Summerwind, and we can, set a time to do that. So the idea is to rebuild it from the original blueprints, exactly right where that is, but then just, reestablish it. It's just like a bed and breakfast or a museum. I think it would have great potential, and we've been working with Jeff Bellinger now from Ghost Adventures on trying to make that into a reality.
So anybody else have any questions on anything? Anything comes to mind?
So, Tyler?
Yes.
What's this is a question I'd love to hear all three of you answer. What is a dream local location that you would love to investigate?
Dream local location. There are so many locations that we've been up and down now, Maryland, Pennsylvania. I think for me, like personally, I think really our biggest dream locations would be Eastern State Penitentiary. Unfortunately, they don't recognize it as a paranormal tour place anymore due to new ownership taking it over. But that's one of my dream locations. And how about you guys, Melissa?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I know this is a total dream location because it's very far away, West Coast. But how about the Winchester? Yeah. Yeah. Has anybody ever been? That's my question. Yeah.
So,
I would say, because we're talking here about locally things, but I remember seeing a while back, and they had a team of paranormal investigators. They go to this place, I think it was called like the Island of the Dolls or something. And it's,
Mexico.
is that what it's at, Mexico? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like this small little area. They have like all these like dolls and things like that, and they've been in to investigate and capture activity. And I think something like that would be like, it'd be really creepy, but really cool at the same time. So, for us, I think going on the lightship overfalls because we were on a ship, I thought was really, really cool. But, we talked about this battleship in New Jersey, and I think that would be really cool to go on a real military battleship because, there's probably going to be a lot of activity there and a lot of rooms and stuff like that. It just seemed like a really, really interesting place.
What about Fort Delaware? Have you done anything there?
actually not yet, although we have been in touch with the National Park Service out there. And the funny thing is, another group who really inspired me, the founder of another group, actually used to be a tour guide at Fort Delaware. And I know Peapatch Island is known to have lots of paranormal activity. So he would like to say, actually, during that time, he think of like paranormal investigating as like watching corn grow in the dark. It's kind of slow, but once it's all of a sudden starts growing, it goes full throttle. So I think that's definitely on our bucket list to investigate. Anyone else have any more questions?
Anybody? Okay. Well,
Let's get started.
yeah, it's about 5 to 9 now, so I think we're doing really good time-wise. Do you guys want to follow us down into the other room? And we're going to show you some equipment,
Yep, a little
and
equipment
let you guys have a
demonstration.
little hands-on.